preamble. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. Members of the public who wish to watch and listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner: WCTV, Channel 9, Comcast Infinity, Channel 37, Verizon Fios, and livestream WCTV.org. This meeting of the Wilmington Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may also do so via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and enter the meeting ID 841-4920-8177. Then press pound and press pound again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment, and by following the step previously noted, then press *9 on their telephone keypad. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. All callers using this feature will be placed in queue in the order they entered the prompt. In the event that despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:06. The first order on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for 31 Eleanor Drive.
Don, Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind just doing a quick roll call so that we know who's in attendance, that would be great.
Perfect. I'm here, Don Pearson. Vinny?
Vinny Licciardi here.
Ron?
Ron Bradley here.
Tom?
Olala here.
Laura?
Laura DeWall here.
Mike?
Mike McInnes here.
Good. Thanks for the reminder, Val.
Yep.
Okay, so 31 Eleanor Drive.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. We wanted to speak with you tonight in hopes to gaining a negative determination of applicability for our backyard to install a retaining wall and pool area. At this time, we've hired a landscape architect and a structural surveyor to support our plans for our backyard. I believe most of those copies are attached. Valerie, were you able to get the latest one that I sent over?
I was.
Okay, so that is the latest revision. Again, Kathy and Valerie, thank you guys so much. You guys have been a huge help trying to get us ready for this meeting. So from what we can see, it looks as though the revised plan keeps us out of the conservation restriction area and should effectively leave us inside of the proposed area for the pool. And this should impose no impact to the resource area. And then at this time, we've put in silt fence. On the backside, we put in some silt socks. I know we've had a visit from one of the town engineers already out to the site on last Friday. So kind of where we are at this point for the applicability.
Val?
Sure. So unfortunately, I'm having trouble pulling up the plan, but
I can screen share it if you'd like to.
that would be great if you wouldn't mind.
No.
So we became aware of this through the engineering division when they were out on a site visit. told us that there was a retaining wall being constructed on the property. We contacted the property owners to let them know that they would need to file with the commission, and they were looking to do a pool. So that pool was shown on the plot plan that was submitted with the RDA. Through some questions, asking about, if, where is the wall and is there going to be a fence included in this? We worked on getting more details on what was being proposed, and you'll see this is the most recent version where there's a pool and patio area with a fence surrounding it, retaining wall in the back. There is a conservation restriction on the back side of this property that they've sort of amended their design to include, to avoid. I guess I had a couple questions for the applicants just to kind of get an idea of where things are currently. The first being, so the back wall, the back retaining wall, that's already been constructed. And it looks like it goes sort of straight across instead of making that jagged, line to conform with the conservation restriction. Is that right? So you would have to remove that wall?
Yeah, so we'll remove it on the opposite side of that wall. Now, Valerie, even before we started that, we put in the silt fence. So I apologize. What I didn't realize on the plot plan, I kind of went by the one that I had shared you that showed the existing stone bound. Kind of how this came about with the wintertime, we had that washout area, so we followed that rock area. But yes, to answer your question, long and short of it, yes, we'll take that wall back, reconstruct it to match the conservation restriction area.
Okay, and then it looked like maybe trees were taken out to accommodate this area. Do you know were any trees taken out in the conservation restriction?
Nothing previous to this. No, there was trees taken down when we first moved in, but there was nothing taken down for this area.
Okay. And then just one additional question. So it looked like the Bobcat was accessing the yard it looked like maybe the left side of the boulders from
Correct.
The street. So that left side of the boulders is area that you're supposed to stay out of. So those boulders sort of demarcate where you're not supposed to go. So
Put those boulders.
So if you're talking from our street level, the boulders on the left-hand side, we're on the inside of that. So that was so those boulders were there when we purchased the house at the after it was built. So that little access area, we kind of just made our path inside that rock area. At that time, it was only I think it was bark mulch and stuff. There was no grass or anything or there. So we kind of manipulated that area to be able to get the machinery in. We didn't create that area.
So you were staying to the left or the right of those boulders?
So if you're on Eleanor Drive and you're looking at our house, the house would be to your right. The stones that you're talking about are on the left. We're inside of the left onto the right side of it. So depending on which plane you look at, if you look at where our septic system is, that we're right along how it was previously graded down. So I think he demarked it on the plan as the access. So that line to the left of the access to build is the existing stone bound line that was provided when we bought the house.
And did you guys move those stones to get access through there?
No.
Not those ones.
No.
Okay. And so you're on the lawn side, the septic side of the
Correct.
stones?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So I guess for the commission, this is a little bit different than a typical RDA just because the work has already been started. I guess there's a couple ways that this could happen. You could approve this RDA or give a negative determination. I would recommend some conditions in that case, which we don't typically put a lot of conditions on these, but I guess a few of those would be to kind of stake out the property lines, stake out that conservation restriction, just to make sure that, you know, there's no encroachment in that. Erosion controls, which have been said that they're already in place. And then the engineering division recommended an as-built plan be submitted to show that, to show that none of those areas are being encroached upon.
Absolutely.
So that's one way, I guess, to do it. The other way, because there's been, you know, it's a little bit more complicated than your typical RDA, would be an enforcement order to require an NOI filing to be able to put additional, you know, conditions on this as far as how it's constructed, and to make sure that it's closed out properly. As you know, RDAs don't have any closeout process. So it's really up to the commission. I think the work itself, you know, there's a fence proposed around the area. There's patio. There's a pool area. They are showing it staying outside of the conservation restriction. Although, like I said, they have disrupted that conservation restriction area already with a wall and some clearing. So there would have to be some restoration of that. So that's, I guess what I'm getting to is it's a little bit difficult or challenging to put that all into a negative determination for this. But if you all feel comfortable with putting all of those conditions in negative determination, that's what we can do.
Valerie, as far, I don't mean to jump everybody, I apologize. As far as the area of disturbed, if you guys need green plantings to go back, trees, whatever you guys determine, even if that's not in the conditions, whatever is needed, we'll obviously take care of. You know, just, like I said, I apologize that we had made that jump. I didn't realize we were outside of our area.
Okay. So I'll ask the commission for their comments and also for an opinion on whether to stick with the RDA or to require a notice of intent. Start with Mike.
Oh wait, Mike, hold on one second.
Here I am.
There you go.
Okay. I unmuted myself, or we both did. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Valerie, there's no way to document or assure any of these conditions we're talking about are taken with an IDA determination.
You can put conditions on the RDA. There's no closeout process for the RDA. So, and really it's meant to have, you know, very few simple conditions on it. So that's the challenge with this.
There's no
And
way
it certainly wouldn't typically include a restoration of a conservation restriction area. So that's the challenge. So we'd have to be very specific in what's placed in the negative determination. But I was forwarded some photos today that made me realize that wall was already in that area. It wasn't just something that was proposed. So restoration of that area, we'd probably want to see what was disturbed and have them provide a planting plan, a seeding plan that we could approve.
So again, if I'm hearing you correctly, there's limited things we might recommend to put in the RDA, but there's how about enforcement? Is there any way to enforce it?
It would have to, you know, we could do, if it wasn't, you could do an enforcement order after. If it wasn't followed, you could do enforcement.
Okay.
as there's no requirement to have a certificate of compliance, is
Right.
Okay,
what you're saying.
okay, all right, so with that, I would say that if the applicant's willing to do the things he said, the one thing I'd add is I didn't hear was, what about replacement trees? Would we want those as well?
Yeah, whatever you guys need.
Whatever you.
We're pretty, I mean, honestly, we're pretty flexible to do whatever's necessary. You know, there's no really pushback here from us.
So my question of you, Valerie, is we have a tree, does this fall within the tree replacement policy?
So I guess I would ask the applicant what trees, if there are any trees being proposed to be removed. It did look like maybe maybe it was from before, but it did look like maybe there was a tree removed for the wall. There's a stump behind the wall.
Yeah, sorry guys to interject. So when the first season that we bought the house, that tree came down with one of the windstorms and some additional branches. There was a contractor in the area that did 2 of the trees on the opposite side for 28, and so they had just cut it and stumped it down, but that had come down in a windstorm. That wasn't removed for that wall.
Okay.
Okay, I'm all set otherwise.
Tom, any questions, comments? You need to unmute.
Oh,
No questions here. Looks pretty straightforward, as long as they make the changes they suggested.
A sense of notice of intent, or go with the RDA and conditions?
Yeah, with the conditions, I think it's fine.
Vinny?
I'm okay with them, with the conditions.
Laura?
I just want clarification on the plot plan. It has the conservation restriction area. Is that the 25-foot setback or the 15? Or is that just?
so it's the area shown here on the on this plan. I believe it's actually maybe 30 feet, if I remember correctly, because it's a conservation subdivision. So
Okay.
so it would be, I think, the 30 feet.
Right. Okay.
The dimension wasn't shown on this
On
plan.
this one, but we have it on the other one.
Valerie, I have the one. Are you talking the one that you sent me the other day highlighted?
Yep.
Okay, hang on one second. I can put that in there. Hang on one second. I can pull that right up for you.
So that's the no build setback and not the no disturb setback, right?
This is something altogether different in that you really can't touch anything within this area. So it's a different type of no disturb.
Right.
Valerie, I don't know if you guys can see that.
No,
No,
they
you can't see
can't.
that. So it says zoning setbacks are 20, conservation subdivision, front yard 30 feet, side yard 20 feet, rear yard 20 feet.
Yeah, this would actually be in addition to that zoning setback, or I guess
Okay. So see?
a little different from it.
Okay. And then, so looking at the engineer's comments, there was the pictures, and I had you couldn't really see. You said there was stone markers for where this restriction area is. I couldn't really. Could you see those in the engineering pictures? I wasn't sure which rocks they were.
No, that's why I think it would be important to have that area staked out, because you can't see it because the wall that they've already started building is within that area. So the retaining wall that you see kind of make that angled shape on this plan.
Right. That's that edge now.
It was built in a straight line, and it
Right.
went into that conservation restriction area.
Okay. So then we'd be pulling it back.
Right.
Okay. I'm kind of undecided on the RDA with conditions versus the NOI, just because like it is a no touchy area. If we were in like the no curb as opposed to like no build, and you can walk through there or run equipment through there. But yeah, I definitely would want to see that area kind of staked out and to make sure that the final product is, outside of that area. And then, yeah, if there's any like whatever tree removal or shrubbery that wants to be put in to kind of add to that, if, for the area that they've already disturbed, to kind of repair that. And then I'll channel Laurie real quick and say we want a fence or permanent markers once it's completed. Though that corner obviously will be the retaining wall. So yeah, I guess I've talked myself into an RDA with conditions, knowing that, with conditions. So marking that out, restoring the area that's been disturbed already, and ensuring, for the areas that there's not wall that's going to be on that restriction area, to make sure that there is permanent markers showing the extent of that restriction area.
Okay.
I think that's good.
Thank you.
Okay, Ron?
Valerie, can you talk about a conservation restriction for a few moments? Is that just essentially you can't disturb that area, but it doesn't suggest anything for adjoining area?
Right. So it's an area that can't be disturbed. So it's to remain. It's basically a no disturb area that was established when this subdivision was permitted, and has to do with the conservation subdivision design regulations. So it's really to remain a natural area that is not disturbed.
And I can see the words conservation restriction, but I'm not certain as to how far to the left that's supposed to continue.
Sure. So let me try to pull up a different plan for you guys.
Yeah, just
You
the
can stop
plan.
sharing if you need to.
Let me. So it kind of does an angled shape right along with the wall that they're proposing. Let me just look through my emails really quickly to see if I can find the plan that I sent. We have an as-built plan for when the house was built, and I can try to pull that up here. Here we go. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so on this plan, this is the as-built plot plan that shows, I highlighted the conservation restriction area.
Yep.
And you'll see that it does this angled line right here. So their proposed patio is back here and actually kind of runs into this area currently. So they're going to pull that back and follow this line to avoid this area.
Okay. I see the wetlands area, and it's not clear to me how far out that extends, where 25 or 100 feet would be. Can I assume that that's approximately the edge of the conservation restriction area?
Well, you'll see this line right here. This is 67 feet from the wetland point here to the septic system.
Yeah.
So kind of using that as a gauge, I would guess that, the work that they're proposing is, at least 30 plus feet.
Okay, great.
From the wetland.
Great. Okay, that's all the questions I had. I'm fine with the RDA with conditions.
Okay.
Let me actually ask them a question for just 1 second before I stick to what I just said. This it's a little hard to see the patio layout on the parcel, but if the applicants could just indicate, does the fence and patio area go right up to this side property line?
No,
No,
no.
it just cut off. I can send you the color version, Valerie, that kind of shows it going back to green. No, it stops almost in line with the rock border that was there. So I think don't quote me on it. I can get you a dimension tomorrow. I think it's like 20 some odd feet from the end of like our patio green area back to the stone bound area.
Okay. And as you can see, the wetland is off property here.
Mhm.
So there is a distance between the wetland and their lot corner right here.
Yep.
Valerie, just I know you guys can't see it on this, but the patio area then transitions to a green area. We're going back to, it's not going to be, the whole entire thing won't be patio. It will go back to grass all the way back. So there is some green going back.
And then the proposed fence, does that go along the property line, or is that pulled back from the property line?
That's going to go, so it's going to go around what we're going to use as our technically property line would be the backside of the retaining wall, and then up the stone bound wall, and then across the new retaining wall. It would kind of lock in that little parcel so that nothing can come in from either side. Now again, if you guys want us to bring it inside of the area, whatever you guys need, that's not a big deal.
Does it follow the property line?
It'll follow the property line along the side. Yes, I'm sorry, left side.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Sure. Valerie, if we did the RDA, could we have an enforcement order that essentially lists the conditions? Or the ones that we want to have more visibility on, like the restoration plan?
You could do a separate enforcement order for restoration of the conservation restriction area. You could do that.
Could you tell me again what the conditions were? One of them was an as-built.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So one is to stake out the property lines and the conservation restriction, so to ensure that the construction doesn't happen within the conservation restriction area and happens within the property lines. Erosion controls, of course, that would be inspected by our department. We would ask for an as-built plan after the fact, and then we talked about restoration of the conservation restriction area.
Okay. Is there any virtue to having the restoration plan in the enforcement order as opposed to being a condition?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So we could have an enforcement order that deals with restoring the conservation restriction area, and then also approve a determination for the project.
Okay. Is it a -3?
It would be a -3.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the audience on 31 Eleanor Drive?
So let me just see if there's any hands raised. And I think I'm told that there's quite a bit of delay when you're watching it on TV. And so to give a little bit of time for folks to catch up with us, I'll just ramble on a little bit. But we don't currently have any hands raised for this.
Okay. How about I go ahead?
Okay, and if I could ask one more question before you guys take a vote on
Absolutely.
this. So if we were doing an enforcement order for the restoration, you would want to see a restoration plan by a certain date. I imagine sometime in August would be appropriate. Typically, we put in a requirement that be submitted by a certain date.
How does that work for the homeowners?
Yeah, whatever you guys need, that's fine.
Okay. The August meeting date.
The August meeting date is, I think, the 4th of August. Kathy, is that? She can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the 4th.
Valerie, do you need us to appear or just submit on the 4th, if that was a date you decided?
So that would be when the restoration plan would need to be submitted to our
Submit.
office.
Okay, that's fine, because we may or may not be in town. So it's fine if we just email it.
Yes.
Okay.
Would it be in time for that? Would we look at it at the meeting?
If we wanted it for the meeting, we would need it sooner than that. We'd need it ideally at least a week prior to that.
Valerie, will you guys issue guidelines of what you want in the restoration plan, or is that just, is there a guideline I can have our landscape architect put together so that we can get that submitted faster for you?
It's really up to the commission, but my recommendation would be to kind of look at what was in that area and then to improve upon that condition.
Okay.
And I'm corrected, it's August 5th at the next meeting. It's Wednesday, August 5th.
And it looks like you'd want the material in by the 28th of July. We're going to look at it at the next meeting, or the August meeting, right?
That would be, yes, that's right.
Okay. So I'll ask for a motion then to issue.
Can I interrupt really quick? For the homeowners, generally for restoration plans with the landscape architect, in the restoration area, there's usually lists of like native plants, natural species for wetland areas. So that usually the landscape architect knows these kinds of things, but you gotta point him towards that and just, try to make it look like a wetland wild space.
Okay. If we can get that plan done sooner before the 28th, would that be more beneficial for you guys?
That would be great.
Okay.
So again, I'm looking for a motion to issue a -3 determination for 31 Eleanor Drive with the following conditions. Stake out the conservation restriction and the property line boundaries. Install erosion controls and have them inspected by the department. Provide an as-built when the work is done. And I think that was it, right? The enforcement order would cover the restoration plan. So that's the motion, those 3 conditions. Do I have a second? Do I have a motion, actually?
Is the motion just for the RDA? Are we doing a separate motion for the enforcement order, or?
Yes. Separate.
Okay.
So moved.
Thank you, Vinny. Vinny made the motion. Second, please.
Second.
Ron made the second. So the voting.
Bring me a knife. Give me a butter knife.
Vinny.
I didn't get that. I was,
Okay. We're ready to vote on the motion now.
okay, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Thank you. Ron.
Yes.
Laura.
In favor?
Give me a knife.
Mike.
I'm just unmuting him now.
In favor.
Tom. You have to say something.
Let me unmute
Oh,
him.
Okay.
So I've taken control over the muting, over the mute and unmute button because we have we have members of the public that have joined us, I believe. So
Yeah, you might have muted yourself, Tom.
there we go.
My vote is yes.
Okay. And my vote is yes as well. So a second motion is to issue an enforcement order for 31 Eleanor Drive to provide a restoration plan for the conservation restriction by July 28th. Is there anything else, Valerie, or is that?
No, I think I'll just write that it, the enforcement is to remove the retaining wall and provide a restoration plan to be reviewed by the commission. Yep.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the enforcement order, or
So
is it
moved.
issue? Ron made the motion. A second?
Second,
Second from Vinny. Okay. Voting, Tom,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Laura.
In favor?
Did I get you already, Ron?
Yes.
Vinny?
yes.
And myself, yes.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to the next. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a
Have a
good
good Fourth. Thank you.
Good night. You as well.
Thank you.
So moving on to the next item, which is an RDA for 79 West Street.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if we have anyone here to represent this tonight. I'm looking through the crowd and I don't see anyone, but if there is someone here for this, they can just raise their hand for us to indicate that, and I'll get started on a, let me just stop sharing my screen. But this proposal is for a small concrete pad to place a hot tub on. This is in the buffer zone, and it's a 8x8 concrete pad, and then a 12x12 deck extension in the back of the house. And the BVW is about 55 feet away. So this is within the buffer zone, but is quite a distance from the wetland.
Is it something we can go ahead with in the absence of the applicant?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I'll note that the application did state that work was proposed by hand tools, so they weren't proposing any erosion controls, and the topography didn't seem to indicate that they would need erosion controls, but we can always condition that if you'd like to.
Did the engineer recommend erosion controls? I seem to remember.
Let's see.
Yes. They suggested the applicant install temporary erosion controls, either staked hay bales or straw wattle, along the southerly side of the existing driveway. So yeah, they do recommend
Okay.
erosion controls and an as-built.
So we'll ask for the erosion controls then.
Yeah, I did talk to the town engineer, and he said that the as-built isn't necessary unless the commission really wants that as-built. We don't typically require those for projects like these.
Okay. Any questions or comments, Laura?
I would add the as-built and let them have fun. Or not the, sorry, erosion controls. One of those nights already.
Vinny, any
I'm okay with
questions? Ron,
I'm okay with it.
Tom,
Yeah, sounds fine.
Mike?
I'm okay.
Okay. Sounds okay to me too, so I'll ask for a motion then to issue a -3 determination for, sorry, I didn't ask for the public, right? That's what
Oh,
you're
no,
doing.
you didn't.
Right.
Trying to beat Vinny and Ron in.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the public for 79 West?
So far, I do not see any hands, but I'll let you know.
Is this sort of like the hand washing where you sing happy birthday twice?
Only if you're singing.
You would
I
like
don't-
that.
I don't have any hands, so
right.
no comments.
Let's move on then. So I'll accept a motion then to issue a -3 determination for 79 West Street with the condition that erosion controls be installed. Do I have a motion?
so moved.
So moved.
Who was that? You, Vinny?
Yeah.
Okay. A second, please.
I'll second.
Second from Laura. Thank you. For the voting, Mike,
1 second, let me unmute Mike. There we go.
In favor.
Laura,
In favor.
Tom,
In favor?
Ron,
In favor.
Vinny,
In favor.
myself in favor as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next item on the agenda is a public hearing for a notice of intent for 97 Glen Road.
Good evening, Luke Roy, LJR Engineering, on behalf of the applicant, Stephen Wright. I'll share my screen here with the plan. So we've submitted this notice of intent for 97 Glen Road. This is for demolition of an existing I'm getting some sort of pop-up on my screen here. Demolition of an existing dwelling, construction of a new single-family dwelling, septic system, and associated site work. So the property here, 97 Glen Road, is 11,480 square feet. It's in the R10 zoning district. There's the existing house is close up to Glen Road here. This is it's a rough house there that's been abandoned and for some time. So the new house that we're proposing is more towards the back side of the lot in this location, mainly for zoning reasons. With the setbacks, it was really the only area where you could fit something reasonable and conform to the 15-foot side and rear setbacks for the lot. The wetlands are delineated here to the rear on town land, so there's no wetlands on the actual subject property, but they're to the rear of the site on the town-owned land. So the house, as we're proposing it, would be 44 feet from the wetlands at the closest point. And then we have the septic system sited to the right-hand side yard of the house. We had initially targeted kind of trying to put the septic system in the front area, more where the existing house was, but the soil conditions in this area were somewhat poor. And then as we went to the back, it was definitely preferable soil conditions as far as Title V goes. And the way we have that system designed and sited, it's 55 feet from the wetlands at the closest point over to this side here. And then, so this house will go away. This will just become grass lawn area in the front. The driveway will come up to the house. It'll be a single bay garage straight in there. And we have a paved turnaround area in this region here. We have a roof drain infiltration system located towards the front to capture the roof runoff. And we also have a section of stone infiltration trench along the, I guess it'd be the northerly edge or down gradient edge of the driveway. This property being within the groundwater protection district, we wanted to try to maximize recharge and, you know, with getting as much runoff into the ground as we can with the roof drains and the stone trench. Additionally, being in the groundwater protection district, we had limitations on the impervious coverage. And because of the long driveway and the square footage of that, we ended up where if this was full regular pavement all the way up to the house, we would have been over that. I guess in this case, I think it's the 2,500 square foot maximum. And so we're proposing a section of this to be pervious or porous pavement. And we've provided a construction detail for that cross section of that pavement. Other than that, the site will be built up somewhat for the septic system. There'll be a retaining wall basically following the property line around the side and the back, maximum of 4 feet in height. I think it's like 3 to 4 feet depending on where you are. So that will be basically demarcation along these sides here. And then we just have that erosion control all around the perimeter coming up towards the front. There's a few trees that we're proposed to remove, and we've indicated those on here. So that's basically the proposal. You know, I think it'll be an improvement. Although the house is closer to the wetlands, it will be more conforming and cleaned up, certainly from what's there, and with stormwater measures incorporated, like the roof drains and the infiltration trench. Overall will be an improvement as far as the interest of the wetlands. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Thank you. Valerie?
Sure. So Bill Holt from the engineering division went out to check the wetland line, and he said that he agreed with where it was located. We did receive some comments from the engineering division. Luke, I just sent those over to you. Sorry for such the late sending of that. We got them today. So one of those, and we can review those. I know the commission has those. Just asking for an O&M plan for the porous pavement and citation in the deed so that folks know how to maintain that. Asking for a section detail of the proposed retaining wall that is located on the property line, just to make sure that that wall can be constructed on the property without disturbance of adjacent properties. And then confirming the distance between the proposed roof infiltrator and the septic system located at the adjacent parcel at 95 Glen Road. So putting a distance on there for us. And then lastly, just kind of talking about, and Luke, I wanted to ask you, the septic has a wall around, the backside and the side, where it kind of butts up against the wall for the septic for 95. It looks like it's proposed to just sort of grade out into that wall. Is that what's being proposed? So there wouldn't be another wall next to the existing wall, or what will that look like?
Yeah, so that's, I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. I mean, essentially the face of that existing retaining wall is right on the property line. Ideally, if they can talk with the neighbor as far as that's essentially going to get buried, so it would be kind of pointless to build a wall against another wall. But I can try to make that clear, and if it's the preference, like with the town, I mean, a wall can be built there, but it's kind of pointless as far as retaining anything, because it's just burying another wall. It'd just be face to face with another wall. So we can certainly provide some clarification on that, or what the applicant really would like to do there as far as talking to the neighbor, or just building a wall all the way around.
Thank you.
And we can certainly add the distance from the roof drains you had mentioned to the septic system is over 25 feet. We can add that dimension on there.
Anything else, Valerie?
No, that's all.
Okay. Any questions or comments, Vinny?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
About the wall. Down the line, if we look at it, we have a problem with that wall and we don't build a wall on the petitioner's side. Who's going to be responsible? And we might get into a problem down the line in years to come.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
If we don't build a wall on this lot, down the line, we might have a problem. Whose responsibility is that going to be with the neighbor?
I mean, the neighbor there, we did the plans for the development of this lot, and that's their septic system there as well. And they had to build a wall because it was retaining the grade around the septic system. So now it just happens that we're building up a similar grade, a slightly higher on this side. As I said, whatever we is preferable there.
I get the picture. I understand that. I'm okay with it. I get it.
Oh, okay.
Ron?
I'm fine, thanks.
Laura?
Yeah, I think I agree with Luke. It does kind of seem silly to do two retaining walls facing each other. I think we would definitely want to see some coordination with the neighbor, just to make sure that, you said the elevation of the septic to be installed is going to be a little higher than the existing septic retaining. So would still be some kind of like step down or grading from one or the other. So yeah, I think it would be useful just to make sure that's smoothed out with the neighbor before you go ahead, and then otherwise I'm good with it. But yeah, I think if something cannot be negotiated with the neighbor, and because I think grading it from one or the other or doing a retaining wall would involve access to their lot. So if something can't be resolved with them, then I think we'd have to end up doing our own retaining wall.
Understood.
So yeah.
Mike?
Takes a while to get unmuted. I'm all set.
Tom?
No questions here. Looks like an improvement for the site.
Okay. I'm curious, Valerie, do you have a draft?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't. And it would, I think I'd recommend that maybe Luke come back with some information on what would be proposed for those two walls, or coordination with the neighbor to not put in a second wall prior to the next meeting, so that we could have a draft ready for that meeting.
Okay with you, Luke?
That makes sense, sure.
Okay.
I pull my screen down.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm looking from actually any questions or comments from the audience for 97 Glen Road? Mm-hmm.
So far, Mr. Chairman, there are no raised hands. We do have a couple callers on the line, so maybe give a few seconds to let the TV catch up with our meeting.
Sure.
No raised hands.
Okay. So could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for the notice of intent for 97 Glen Road till the August 5th meeting? Vinnie made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ron made the second. Voting, Tom?
Yes.
Mike?
Mute him.
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Vinnie?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So the next item is a public hearing for a notice of intent for 11 Kendall Street.
Thank you. Again, Luke Roy, LJR Engineering, on behalf of the applicant, Michael Tachuk. This is a notice of intent we've submitted for 11 Kendall Street. Just pull it up here. So this is, as I said, a notice of intent for demolition of an existing dwelling and construction of a new single-family home, septic system, and associated site work. This is 11 Kendall Street. It's just over 55,000 square feet in the area. I believe that's in the R20 zoning district. It's at the corner of Kendall Street, which is a public way, and Houghton Road. There's a wetland resource area bordering vegetated wetlands that basically goes to the rear. That's been delineated, flag 1 through 13. This is all wooded back here. Currently, there's an existing dwelling and a shed to the rear, driveway in the front. There's like a channel, an intermittent stream or channel from a culvert that comes under Kendall Street and basically flows this way, which was flagged, and comes down to the larger bordering vegetated wetland area. So the new home, where we're proposing it here, will be located 56 feet from the wetlands at the closest point. And we've done test holes and designed a septic system at the front of the house. That will be 80 feet from the wetland at the closest point here. The driveway will be along the right-hand side. It's a garage under on the right side. The grade drops off quite a bit from Kendall Street to the rear. So this is set up certainly for a walkout basement in the back, and then it continues to slope down. the grade is significant enough where we have a length of retaining wall along this property line to make up the grade differential there. And we've graded this in such a way that the driveway runoff will flow along the gut along the edge here, and we have some stone infiltration trench at the back edge of the driveway to capture and slow down the velocity of that runoff coming down the driveway. And then this will be a grassed slope beyond that point. So we wanted to prevent that from being an area that gets eroded, by putting in that stone section at the end. Additionally, we have a roof drain system to the low side, to the rear of the house, that'll capture the entire roof area of the new home. And then we've got erosion control basically around the entire site, including the structures to be demolished, and water service connection. I think that is basically it. This one is also in the groundwater protection district, and it has quite a bit of land area. So the percentages, if I remember correctly, where did I put that chart? It was just at 6.5% of the lot area is impervious, with the house roof and the driveway area for the lot as it will be constituted for this development. So that's the proposal at this time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Luke. Valerie?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Again, Bill Holt from the Engineering Division did a site visit to look at the wetland lines and confirmed that they were in the appropriate place. We did receive some comments from the Engineering Division regarding more geared towards the proposed retaining wall on the side property line adjacent to the 25 no build. That wall be certified, designed by a structural engineer, and that be submitted for review prior to building permit. Did have a question, Luke, it was a little unclear whether the infiltration trench, the stone trench, was going right up to that retaining wall, and whether that was something that infiltration should kind of be encouraged along that wall, if it would be designed in a way to allow for, or that you would want infiltration right on that wall. And then sort of in that same vein, asking the question of whether the driveway could shift, whether the driveway in the dwelling could shift a little bit to the, where are we? I guess to the, on our screen to the left, to just pull it a little bit away from that property line, and maybe even potentially lower that wall or eliminate parts of it. So those were the questions asked, and also confirming that the wall could be constructed entirely within that property boundary as proposed.
Sure. Yes, I think the wall, I believe we kept it to 4 feet or less, but we can take a look at that as far as the design. The stone area at the end, as far as the volume and the storage that we're representing, the 60 cubic feet, was just this area to the end. And I just thought that this wouldn't be an area that you'd really would necessarily have like a grass area. You'd probably want to continue that stone right along there, but not necessarily like direct it as meant for infiltration, but we can make that clear. This, as far as the position of the house, this lot has sufficient area and frontage to be subdivided. for another house lot in this area, and that's one of the main reasons for the position here. And we pulled it away as much as we reasonably could, while also maintaining space for where that subdividing line would ultimately be. So that just to let the commission know as far as why we're that close to the property line. You know, it meets zoning, but I understand it's mainly the grading that's the challenge on that side. And you know, there's some other things that we could do potentially, like I have this as an 8-foot foundation wall. Might be a possibility of doing like a 9 or 10-foot wall, and that would bring the garage and this whole area down a little bit more. I could talk to the applicant about that, and then in turn that would maybe bring the wall down as well a little bit. So, but yeah, that's just to give a quick explanation on that.
Thank you. Valerie, anything else, or?
That's all I had.
Okay. Vinny?
I'm okay with it.
Ron?
I'm okay.
Laura?
No comments on it.
Tom?
No questions.
Mike?
Okay.
Do we have a DEP number for this now?
We did get one yesterday for that.
Okay.
It is 344-1465.
Now, again, I think we probably don't. Do we have a draft?
We do not.
Okay. So in that you're going to talk to the applicant about the possibility of lowering the driveway, would we have, you're okay to continue the meeting to August 5th?
Yeah, I mean, if the commission's not in a position to vote it with conditions, that would be fine. I understand. I haven't had a chance to review engineering's comments yet.
Okay.
So we could take a look at that.
So could I have a motion to, is there any, I guess, are there any comments or questions from the audience for 11 Kendall Street?
So far, Mr. Chairman, no raised hands. Give you an update in a second to see if we've got any hands raised. No raised hands.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion then to continue the public hearing for the notice of intent for 11 Kendall Street to the August 5th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. Second, Vinny, thank you very much. On to the voting, Mike.
Muted.
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Vinny,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
myself, yes. So,
Thank you.
welcome. The next item on the agenda is a request for an amendment to the order of conditions for 93 McDonald Road.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Elizabeth Wallace from Hayes Engineering. We are asking the Conservation Commission to consider an amendment to the order of conditions to allow the inclusion of a constructed patio to be accepted and included in the order of conditions. The order of conditions was issued in May of 2018, and it basically allowed the construction of a single-family house and all appurtenances. If you are kind enough to allow me to share my screen, it would be easier to point at a plan and let hold on a second. Sorry, I'm having a little technological glitch here.
Let's see if I can get it before you.
You probably can. I am not such a talented screen sharer.
Let's see.
Okay, here we go. All right, so this order of conditions under DP file number 3441383 allowed for the development of a house at the formerly known Lot 21, which is now 93 McDonald. It's off this common driveway, and sometime during the development of the lot, there was a sunken patio right at the side of the house that was put in. We are now asking the commission to include that as part of the project. Basically, it's a paver patio with retaining wall around it. The patio itself is sunken down to be a walkout of the house, and there's a retaining wall with stairs walking up onto the lawn. This area is lawn, and if the commission will accept this patio, we'd ask the commission to consider that we will replace the pavers, which are now impervious, with pervious pavers, and that will help infiltration. I think that's probably all. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Valerie.
So this this patio, we went out to do the certificate or the occupancy inspection, and we found this patio and alerted the builder and his engineers that that would need to go through the commission. It is right. You can see the 50-foot offset right along the stairs down to the patio.
Right.
So it is quite a distance from the wetland, and it is sunken. I think if these are pervious pavers, it's really not an impact, and would recommend that it be approved as an amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Vinny, any questions?
Besides the pavers, are we doing anything else to remove any rain liquid that accumulates down there? I don't know.
There is this stormwater trench here that will carry the water away.
Okay.
There was also another little trench added at the time. I don't know if it's still there, but when we replace the pavers with pervious pavers, that will allow the rain to infiltrate into the ground.
Okay, I'm all set.
Tom,
No questions?
Laura?
No questions.
Mike,
All set.
Ron,
Good with it.
okay. As am I. Are there any questions or comments from the audience? In fact, do we need to ask Valerie for an amendment?
Yeah, you would want to ask for the amendment. Yep.
All right. Anyone interested in commenting from the public on 93 McDonald Road?
So far, Mr. Chairman, we don't have any raised hands so far. And we still do not have any raised hands.
Okay. May I have a motion then to,
So, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, since this is an amendment to the existing order, with amendments, all we do is we reference the new plans, and in this case, we would require that the pavers be pervious, but all of the rest of the order stays the same as the original document. So it's pretty straightforward. If you would like to close the hearing and issue this amendment, I think you could without seeing it because it's so simple. But if you'd like to wait till next time, that's up to you.
I'd be willing to close the hearing and move ahead. Does anyone on the commission think that that's not such a good idea?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. So could I have a motion then to close the hearing for the request for amendment to the order of conditions for 93 McDonald Road?
So moved.
Okay. Laura made the motion. Second?
Second.
Second, Vinny. Voting, Mike,
Favor.
Ron,
Favor.
Tom,
In favor.
Laura,
In favor.
Vinny,
In favor.
and myself in favor. So we are now going to have a motion to approve the request for amendment to the order of conditions for 93 McDonald Road.
And you would want to condition that the pavers be pervious, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Anyone make that motion?
So moved.
Vinny has made the motion. A second, please.
Second.
Second, Ron, thank you. For the vote, Tom,
In favor.
Ron,
In favor.
Laura,
In favor.
Vinny,
In favor.
Mike,
In favor.
and myself, yes, in favor. The next item is marked as requesting to continue. Is that
That's
okay?
correct.
Okay?
They've asked to continue to the August 5th meeting.
Fine. I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for a request for amendment to order of conditions for 635 Main Street to the August 5th meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. For a vote, Mike,
Favor.
Laura,
Favor.
Tom,
In favor.
Ron,
Favor.
Vinny,
In favor.
and myself, yes. Okay. We now have 3 more continued hearings, all to be continued. Yes?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. I'll make a motion then to continue the public hearing for the notice of intent for Shady Lane Drive, map 79 parcel right-of-way near parcel 15, to the August 5th meeting. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second from Vinny. All in favor? Laura?
Yes.
Mike?
In favor.
Tom?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Vinny? Vinny, we're voting?
Yes.
Good, okay. And myself, yes. For the next one, I'll make the motion to continue the public hearing for the notice of intent for 687 Main Street to the August 5th meeting. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Laura seconded. For the vote, Laura?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yes.
Myself, yes. And last but not least, I'll make the motion to continue the public hearing for the notice of intent for 100 Ames Street to the August 5th meeting. Could I have a second?
Yes.
Second was
Laura.
Laura. Thank you. For the voting, Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Mike? Okay. Did you vote, Mike?
I did.
Okay. What did you say? Did you say yes?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Yes again.
Laura?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for an ANRAD for 378, 384 Middlesex Ave and 200 Jefferson Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Andrew Chabin with Princeton Properties. Here with me this evening, my business partner, Dan Endyke, and Joe and Dave, who you know well now from Hancock Associates. My suggestion, Mr. Chairman, this evening was to ask Joe to summarize the site visit from last evening and ask the members to then go through their deliberations, if that meets with the approval of the chair.
Good, thank you.
Joe?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. We did have a long and muggy site walk last night, but I think it was fairly fruitful. We did today submit a revised plan showing the 2 new flags that we agreed upon in the field. I'm going to try to share my screen. So if you recall, when we were discussing Z31, we had set flags 32, 33, and 34 heading in a westerly direction. Just to orient the rest of the commission members that weren't there, we're kind of out to the western portion of the site. Maybe I'll just zoom out a little bit. Middlesex Ave is to our right, and here the existing retail and the back parking lot are here. The BBW line kind of winds its way through here, and then the Lover's Brook is our northerly property line, and we are talking about the Z line, which is the riverfront line, and in particular, back here on our west portion, we had originally just stopped at 331 because we felt that that was sufficient to delineate the riverfront in the area of that we needed it to in the project area. There was a call to extend that. We extended it in a direct westerly direction with 32, 33, and 34. There was discussion and some maybe disagreements with that delineation. So we moved in a southerly direction, looking in this wetland area for evidence of flow, whether it was soil erosion around tree roots or water staining or what have you. We kind of came back to around this location, and there seemed, looking out to the west, there seemed to be some evidence of a change. And on the ground in the muck, there was maybe a reduction in some of the evidence of water movement, which is really what we're looking for. We're looking for mean annual high that's related to the movement of the river. So we talked about setting flags. We set a flag, which we call Z100, and then we set Z101 as kind of a directional flag to see what that would cast for a riverfront. And as you see, when we look in this direction, we have the inner riparian and we have the 200 foot, and that riverfront line that is kind of driven by Z24 does take an angle and start to head up this way, but it quickly passes over the BBW line. So we feel that the delineation is sufficient. So in our direct response to the BSC item concerning this flag, we do provide the additional information that Keith was looking for as far as the species of vegetation that we call out at 32, 33, and 34 in justification or evidence of our determination here. But in the spirit of cooperation and kind of trying to move this forward without any additional data gathering and what you have, I'd call this an agreed upon line between the parties that seemed to work for everyone. I won't speak for anyone but ourselves. We're willing to kind of assent to this and try to move the project, try to move the ANRAD forward so we can move the project forward. The other area that we were talking about is the Z18 to Z23 line at the intermittent stream, and we essentially with the Headwaters Stream Team people, Suzanne and Martha, we agreed to disagree, and what we would like the commission to consider is our original line, which again looks at the 2004 FORAD line. The red line is our new 18 to 23. The blue line is the 2004 FORAD line that truncated or jumped across the intermittent stream. We're jumping across the intermittent stream, saying we have the riverfront associated with Lover's Brook. We have the intermittent stream. So we jumped across it. That seemed to be an acceptable approach as memorialized in the BSC letters. So we're standing on that and hope that the commission can see fit to also approve the line in that manner. I can't recall if we discussed at the prior hearing the additional flags 12A and 12B that are down in this area. Keith's prior letter, BSC letter, had called for more flags in the area of 12 to 13, and we had added those. So we did, as we committed to, provide a letter to the commission today addressing the June 2nd letter from the Headwaters Stream Team. And we did also present a letter responding to the BSC letter, which came out earlier this week. So essentially, I think the site walk really went through went through the main issues that came up in those letters, and the only thing that was maybe still outstanding in Keith's mind was the two questions at the end. One being, do we have the parcels right? Did we notify the correct abutters? And it comes down to whether parcel 7 and 8A should be included. They were errantly included in both our cover letter and our form, our ANRAD form. They shouldn't be. The abutters list is correct. The abutters list does not include 7 and 8A, and 7 and 8A are the front parcels. One is parcel 7 is the commuter lot, and parcel 8A, parcel 7 is 8A is the commuter lot, 7 is the vacant lot next to it. So they're on the left-hand side of Jefferson, right up on Middlesex. So they don't need to be involved. They were just errantly referenced in our cover letter in the ANRAD form. So we have sent over to the commission a fixed ANRAD form that does not include those two parcels. The other item that was still outstanding in the recommendations of the BSC letter was to finish the buffer zones from the BVW on the Middlesex Ave lot, the existing retail lot. We had kind of stopped the buffer zones in the middle of this lot down here in close to Middlesex. So the plan now is updated and it completes those buffer zones through the entire property. So I think that was essentially it as far as summary of what happened last night and what we hope the commission can do in approving the wetland line as we've now presented it in this revised plan.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Chairman, we stand ready to answer any questions from the commission itself.
Thank you. Valerie, do you have anything from last night's walk?
No, I don't. I would, if the commission has any questions, I would defer to the applicant team and the town's peer reviewer.
Okay, and Laura was on the walk as well. Laura?
Yes. I've taken a couple of the plot plans that printed out ones, kind of gone at it with markers, and just looking at the different variations of where around Z31, that kind of river, the high water line where we put it, it really doesn't change the area of either the 100-foot inner riparian zone or the 200-foot riverfront area outside of the wetland. So yeah, it's a very small area of difference, and I think we could probably quibble for days, but it really, like, it kind of doesn't make a difference in terms of going to be happening on the site. And I know we're not supposed to be thinking about the project, but it's also like, it's essentially like quibbling over a little bit of area that is not near the building, even though I don't really know where that is. Yeah, so I think it sounds like for the people that weren't there last night, there was some discussion of kind of, you know, one party was not thrilled with the Z32, the Z34, and so we walked deeper into the muck, kind of find an area that they were happy with. And I think we found a tree and another tree that we liked, and so I'm happy with. Oh, someone's barking. So then my other comment was for Z18 to Z23. I know Joe, or yeah, you guys are, you definitely be more conservative than the previous plan. I just, in staying in that area, it was still very, I mean, it was moist because we just had a storm. But if, I know you're talking about kind of jumping over the influence of the intermittent stream right there, but in my head, how I'm picturing it is if you ignore the existence of the intermittent stream, there would be some more sinuosity in that there'd be like more of a curve in that line rather than just a straight jump across, because the river does kind of come out further there. So there's like, you have the little marks for where Z19 and Z20 are, and I'd almost like to see the kind of jump across from Z19 to Z23 or Z20 to Z23. So just get a little bit more of the curve apparent, because that is kind of a sharper, larger curve in the brook right there. So it would be likely to come out further. And I think in my little SketchUp, where we end up with that area, I think ends up changing more area than tweaking 31 to Z100. So I think in my mind, that's kind of more impactful. I think that's what I got. Does that make sense?
Yes, to me. Do you have a plan that has the other flags, just as to show the other commission members?
Which of the flags are you talking about, Don?
21, 22.
So on the plan that's up right now,
They're right here.
22.
Okay, I just can't see them there.
But then there's like that's a lot closer. There's a little red X's that I'm assuming those represent 19 and 20. So I wouldn't think that if we discounted kind of the existence of the intermittent stream temporarily, I wouldn't think that the high water would go all the way up to 22 and 21, but I do think it would come out within Z18.
To which? I'm sorry, Laura.
So right now you have the jump across from Z18 to Z23, and right there, the oxbow, the elbow on the river is it's a bigger elbow than you have in other places. Especially the upstream is a little straighter, so you'd have a little bit more velocity coming. I'm trying to gesture at the drawing, that's not working. So you'd have more velocity coming into that elbow. So I would almost like to see your jump across go from like Z18, Z19, and then to Z23, or even up to 20 to 23. So not necessarily, I don't think we would need to include Z21 or Z22, but I'd like to see that area come out a little bit more to show that, yeah, the velocity of the stream coming in, especially at a high water, would likely come out further than where you currently have the jump across.
Yeah.
So,
I see your point. So from Z20, which is here, to
okay.
Z23.
Yeah, or like the next X over. Yeah, I couldn't make up my mind on which one I liked better, but just one of those. Yeah, because I could definitely see water kind of pushing that far up the intermittent stream in high water flood conditions. And then I think with respect to you guys, it doesn't really change the area too much, but it does, I think, make a difference in terms of showing where the high water is, most likely.
Yeah. I mean, our position is that, you know, again, there's a realization that there's you have the muck line and you have things that are happening in here. So going back to what our premise here in the fact that there are flags that we're not utilizing,
right.
Was looking back at the settlement plan and figuring it was good enough for a FORAD, it was good enough for this, and that's our position. I think we could work with you know, a flag in this location that kind of moved towards 23. I just don't, you know, logistically we'd need to finish this up. So tonight,
I just and like I get what you're saying about the previous line for the FORAD, but I just, you know, looking at, you know, the shape of the Lover's Brook as it comes into there, it's coming out of a you know, there's a pretty straight shot that would, you know, if you follow that down, it would kind of go up the go towards the intermittent stream. And so the like where you have the high water line, like Z23 to Z28 is kind of far out. And then we, you know, cut in really close where this area of potentially higher velocity would be coming through. So I think it doesn't make sense. I mean, knowing that the intermittent stream is there and there's probably going to be influence, but in terms of a high water condition, I think you would definitely be having water going further out than Z18.
I was there as well. Let me make a proposal. Can you zoom in a little bit again? Because I also feel that going straight across is not realistic. And move a little bit to the there we go. The line that's pretty much perpendicular to the river. It says lot line to be removed.
Yep.
On your drawing that that has the Z21, Z22
pretty colors
flags located and the color. Yeah. If you go down that line half the distance from the red line to Z21, half the distance. Yeah, about there. That sort of makes the red line follow the line of the river at that point as well.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the intersection of these two lines?
Yeah.
That'd be, yeah, I mean, that's as real as anything. Yeah, I think it just...
And then it's reproducible as far as, yeah, you have this plan in the record. We can go to that point and we don't have to, we can move forward.
Yeah. What's the large dashed line?
Which one?
The yeah, that one.
Moving this way?
Yes, that's right, at an angle.
Yeah, it's a traverse line, a survey traverse line.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the intersection of that and the vertical.
Okay.
Does that seem in the spirit of what you were thinking as well, Laura?
Yes. So it just kind of follows the shape of the brook a little bit more, because generally the high water would be following the shape of the brook. And yeah, so it kind of looks better and it feels better because it was definitely mucky out there. But then it doesn't it doesn't increase the area that much. But yeah, it feels better than sticking straight with 18 to 23.
Okay. Now, any comments from the other commissioners? Tom?
No, I think that makes sense.
Vinny?
Yeah, I have the summary here, on this intermittent stream, C21 and Z to Z31. It should be delineated by a qualified, experienced wetland scientist. Who did that? And
our response to that comment, Vinny's reading from the BSC letter, which is dated
today.
Today?
Yep.
Or today?
Your letter, Joe, today that you responded to BSC's
Yeah.
comment. That's
Yeah.
what I believe Vinny is responding to.
Right. Just get to that point.
it's down at the very end.
What's the range of flags they're questioning, Vinny? Can you just say that again? 1 to 31?
Z1, Z31.
Okay, so it's questioning Z31 to Z34.
There you go.
It's 1 second. I'm having problems scrolling through this.
While Joe's trying to find that, this is David Cowell. I'm a senior wetland scientist with Hancock Associates.
Yeah, Dave, why don't you just
I
go ahead, Dave.
This response earlier today, and I've attested that I have walked every single flag out there. In my professional opinion, I agree with the flag series out there. So all of these flags have been reviewed by a senior qualified wetland scientist.
Yeah. Essentially, what BSC is saying is that it should have been originally done by a qualified wetland scientist. The way that we did it is we went out and we instructed the survey crew what they were doing. We contend that a professional a land surveyor is highly qualified to gather data. That's what they do for a living. So they were instructed to follow the leaf stain line, the muck line, what have you, to locate that as they move through. Then David Cowell, senior wetland scientist, went out and verified that those flags were set in the appropriate place. And I don't think that the original letter from BSC had any major issues with the location. They did say, maybe put some more flags in there, and we between 10 and 13, and we did that. But I think it was just when Keith found out that the way that this happened, he said it should be redone by a wetland scientist. No, we did it in that manner, and David attested, reviewed it in the field and attests that it is to his liking as an experienced senior wetland scientist with over 20 years experience.
Yes.
So it's a little different looking at a riverfront line or a mean high watermark than a BBW. You wouldn't send a survey crew to do a BBW because they need to understand wetland plants and botany. But here it's about visible evidence, and that's abundantly clear to a trained surveyor who gathers information for a living.
Is that okay, Vinny?
Yeah, okay. I have another question on, we have some watermarks on some wet trees in the Lovers Brook. And the marks show that they're at least 12 inches to 16 inches in height. how does that affect the intermittent stream that's running, I don't know, from the railroad tracks at a high level? How does it affect that stream? And what's, we haven't mentioned too much about this stream. It crosses Jefferson, Jefferson Road. And what's the size of the pipe? And can you shed some light on this, Joe?
Yeah. There's a small watershed that's to the south of Jefferson Road, crosses under Jefferson Road at a 12-inch culvert. There's also some of the Jefferson Road drainage that drains via catch basins directly to that area.
I interrupt you for a minute. Where does this water come from? The tracks? Is this rainwater that collects in the area? Where does this water come from?
It comes from the area to the south of Jefferson Road. There's a wetland area that was delineated as the A series flagging. And again, it's also has Jefferson Road drainage, pavement drainage that contributes to it as well.
Does it ever back up from Lover's Brook?
I'm sure it does in times when Lover's Brook is high, because it's not a substantial watershed that's coming down that intermittent stream. So if it's high enough, if the Lover's Brook is high enough, then yeah, it could back up the area, which is really what makes that expanded BVW area.
So if this project goes through, the area that it shows from Lover's Brook to Jefferson Road, does that area get flooded?
No.
Did you say no?
No, it does not. I mean, we have kind of three different areas. We've got kind of the mean high water, which is defining the riverfront. We have the floodplain, which is elevation 82, and then we have the BVW. And the floodplain 82 line dances on either side of the BVW, but we're not doing any work within the floodplain or within the BVW, so we're not going to be, the project won't be subjected to floodwater.
Do you have any water table numbers?
Yes.
Say, 2005, around May, and say a few years ago when we had a lot of snow and rain. Could you give me an idea what those numbers are?
Water table or water elevations?
Water elevation.
Water elevations from high flood events?
Right.
No, I don't have that data. We do know from the 2003 ANRAD that during that appeal process, they did locate water staining on the culvert crossing at Middlesex Ave, and that elevation was in the area of 80.3. So again, the floodplain, the 100-year floodplain elevation is 82, and that elevation was 80.3.
That's pretty close. Yeah. Okay, I'm all set.
Okay. Let's see. Ron?
Okay, thanks.
Mike?
All set.
Laura, you and I have already spoken.
I have one more question.
Laura?
This is gonna be a nitpicky survey thing. What's the benchmark you guys use for the elevations for the Z flags, the 80s? Is it sea level?
NAVD 88.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
That's North American Vertical Datum of 1988.
No, I'm familiar. I've dealt with many plans in my life that in the 80s they just use an arbitrary benchmark and subtract down from 100. So I always feel the need to ask that.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what currently FEMA uses for their mapping. So the 82 elevation is representative of NAVD 88.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay. So if I haven't missed any of the commissioners, I'll ask if there's any questions or comments from the public.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, so far we don't have any hands raised. I will keep an eye out for any raised hands.
Valerie, while we're waiting, maybe we can remind the commission of how they might be able to proceed this evening, given the number of members that were here at the last hearing and the number that are here tonight.
Sure, and we do have a raised hand, but maybe we could ask Alex Whiteside, our counsel, to just kind of review, who's eligible for voting and so on. So I'm going to unmute you, Alex. There you go.
All right, thanks, Valerie. Alex Whiteside from KP Law here. So Valerie, the members of the commission who have attended all of the hearings during which public testimony has been heard will be eligible to vote tonight. Anyone who has missed one of those meetings would not be eligible. So do you have a sense of how many of the members are eligible to vote?
Yeah, I believe, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe Dawn, Laura, Ron, and Vinny have been to all of the hearings involved with this. So that would be 4 members.
Okay. All right. That's great. So then it would take a majority of those 4 members for passage, so 3 votes in favor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So shall we?
And then we do have a raised hand, Mr. Chairman. Okay. I'm going to unmute the caller and they can introduce themselves.
Can you hear me, Suzanne Sullivan?
Yes.
All right, Suzanne Sullivan, 60 Lawrence Street. There's a couple of things. I sent a lot of information to the commission today, and I just want to make sure that the commission was given that information.
We received it.
Yes, I received a GIS plan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back to.
Yes, Suzanne, all the materials that you sent to Valerie and Kathy were forwarded onto the commission.
Okay, that's good. I just want to make sure that people have that information. So when I speak, that if you have to refer to it, or if anybody should have any questions. The very first thing I'd like to address is that in the public hearing, the last public hearing that you had with the applicant, there was a comment that, and I think this is significant to point out, that there was a comment that the original ANRAD was silent on the mean annual high water line and the riverfront area, and that's absolutely completely false. At that time, we couldn't locate our copy, but we did locate one of our files from one of our members, and that is absolutely not true. That the Conservation Commission was actually really vocal about the mean annual high water line. And once again, that commission agreed with the Headwater Stream Team, and there was only one area of contention, which was not relevant to this site, but it's relevant over to where the island was, and where there's a swales area, which we still think could actually potentially impact this site, or what they're asking for now could definitely impact any future filings if they're going to file an NOI down the road. And I would caution them that when they file the NOI down the road, they might want to make sure that the riverfront area is delineated properly as it relates to where they want to do their work. So I just want to put that out there, because that could be a bone of contention there too, and end up in appeal, because that could definitely put riverfront area on this site. The second thing that I'd like to address as far as the USGS, the Mass GIS map that I supplied to the commission, it's really important to look at that, because I was actually kind of shocked myself. So when I looked at the ANRAD, I started to think, because on the original ANRAD, an intermittent stream was never identified on this site. It wasn't identified in the SORAD process. And I asked whether or not it's going to be actually something that's going to be identified in the ANRAD as an intermittent stream. Is that part of the resource area delineation?
Joe, Dave?
Oh, sure, I can speak to that. Yeah, this is there's an intermittent stream located internal to the bordering vegetated wetland system. We have not delineated inland bank associated with that intermittent stream channel because it's not necessary. It's entirely encapsulated by the bordering vegetated wetland system. So the 100-foot buffer zone and any setbacks are broadcast from the bordering vegetated wetland, which is the more conservative of the two lines. We've qualified that there's an intermittent stream located in there, but the NRAD combined that we have not field delineated inland bank associated with that feature. It's not necessary or germane to what we're doing.
Okay, thank you very much for that. For that, I would like really contest that because according to the Mass GIS website, that is actually not an intermittent stream. And if you go out there, you can't find a defined bank. So, I mean, just for any commission members that may not understand, what constitutes a stream is something that has defined banks. Even on the downstream side of the culvert, there's no defined banks there. And I don't know how the intermittent stream, so-called intermittent stream, actually got put on this plan. No, even on the FORAD, and it must have escaped us at the time also. But if you look at the original ANRAD, it's not on the original ANRAD. It was not on the SORAD, so it's never been delineated as an intermittent stream. So I would contest. We would say that it's not an intermittent stream, and that what it is a wetland crossing. There's no defined bank, and I challenge anybody to go out there and find a defined bank on the other side of that cover. Because when I went out there earlier yesterday, I looked in there on my way in and my way out. There's no defined banks in there. And there's definitely no defined bank where the discharge from that wetland comes into Lover's Brook. And so that makes the whole argument that you can't find the mean annual high water because of the influence of intermittent stream kind of a moot point. And I do actually really appreciate Lorman's attempt to, to actually put a decent line, and Don's also a decent line in this area for mean annual high water. But I would contend, as we walked by flag 3Z23 yesterday, and I stood there and I asked, if I stand on one side of that flag, I'm in mean annual high. If I stand on the other side of the flag, I'm not in mean annual high. And what is the physical thing that prevents the mean annual high from not going to the left-hand side of that flag? to the upside of that flag. We thought they were much closer, and we'll say it again, we said in our letter that the flags that they originally hung there to depict mean annual high were actually really accurate. We saw the water flowing in there, and that's a bone of contention for us. Especially now knowing that that's actually not an intermittent stream. And we have some wetland scientists listening right now. If there's no defined bank, it's not a stream. So, and I think that you ought to take notice to that. And it's still not clear to me. So my understanding is that an intermittent stream will not be defined as part of the ANRAD, or it will be defined as part of the ANRAD.
With an intermittent stream, it doesn't have riverfront area. So as long as it's encapsulated by the bordering vegetated wetlands, then it's not separately identified or stated in the ANRAD.
Right. So, so then if it's not going to be part of the ANRAD, then you can't use it to try to diminish riverfront for Lover's Brook. I would also say, that's just not right, because it's not an intermittent stream. You can't use it for one application and then turn around and say you're not going to have it defined in the ANRAD. It's either an intermittent stream or it's not. If the applicant doesn't want to have it described as an intermittent stream in the ANRAD, that's their choice. But don't then again use it as evidence that you can't adequately define mean annual high water because of its influence, because there's a confluence there. There's no confluence there because it's not an intermittent stream. So you can't use the confluence as a way to cloud what the real situation here is, that riverine characteristics that you see there are actually from the brook. It was stated multiple times yesterday that you can't tell the difference between the riverine characteristics, the intermittent stream, and the riverine characteristics of Lover's Brook. Well, if it's not an intermittent stream, then all those riverine characteristics that you saw were actually from Lover's Brook, not from the intermittent stream. So it's a very important distinction to make.
I think, Susan, just to break in for a sec, I think that what we recognized was that it was in fact a pretty difficult part, and what we were looking to do was to make the line, the mean annual high water conform more to the shape of the river as you see it. I think that's, and that was sort of independent of whether there's an intermittent stream there or not there. So let's move to, do you have another question? Do you have another comment?
Yes, I do. And like I said, I do appreciate that, but I just also want to let you guys know that it's really, really hard to listen on the phone and to actually watch the meeting and to go follow it because there's such a long delay. So it's really difficult when people are saying things and then to look at what you're doing on the screen and try to figure out exactly what you're doing. It's really difficult, Don. So I just want to say that. And I appreciate what you're doing. But for me at home, trying to follow with that type of a lag, it's at least a 30-second lag. Like one person's talking and the other one's person starts talking, and it's really difficult to do. I just want to state that.
We'll work with you.
Also, over by where the new flags are at Z, the 10, what is it? It's the 100 and 101 from Z31. I guess I don't necessarily have a problem with where those flags are, but we still feel like, you need to at least continue farther down and determine whether or not that is actually riverfront area, and you have to do the work. And the consultant also said the same thing, that, you have to do the work. I also take issue with the way that they have the riverfront area delineated on this plan here, past those flags. Like 200 feet from those flags towards landward edge. And if you look at the plan that they've submitted, or the one that's on the screen anyways, it's all, the riverfront area is delineated past those flags, and that's not acceptable. So our biggest bone of contentions right now is that that's not an intermittent stream. We believe that all the riverine characteristics in that area are from Lover's Brook, the real river, not the fake river. And we also feel that that you need to go and determine whether or not the other areas farther south are indeed riverfront or they're not riverfront. I mean, part of Median Ohio, not part of Median Ohio.
In other words, extending, so extending in the direction from Z100 out towards Z101.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
Yeah. So the way that we see it is, we hear that, you know, like, you know, Joe said, well, if it's good for the FORAD, it's good for this, right? Well, we feel as though if the elevations in where we had mean annual high water before was good for the FORAD, then it's good for this. So, you know, we can also say that. So it's just always, it seems like the FORAD wants to be applied when, at some points, but they don't want to be applied fully, but to use it as a way to justify what they're doing. So what we're saying is our mean annual high water levels were over by the landward edge, and it was an elevation. And this doesn't really come close to those, you know, and we're going to work to see, you know, how far, if there's any more riverine conditions, you know, past the 100 and the 101. But just to stop there and say that all that other area that in our FORAD was riverfront area, I mean, I'm sorry, in our FORAD that was mean annual high, and to say that, but now it's not.
No,
I mean, you can't really expect us to say that unless you prove it.
Can I interrupt, Suzanne, just for clarification? When you say move beyond 100 and 101, are you saying going to the left of the plan or to the bottom of the plan? Right?
Towards the bottom of the plan, because so our, you know, like I said yesterday, you know, there may be some area out there that, you know, you could work with and, you know, bring that line a little up. But when you're standing in that parking lot and you look over through the trees and you're looking into that area, I mean, we had that as mean annual high under the FORAD. You know, not where the pond is, that little pond, but to the right of that little pond and heading out. We had all that whole area as mean annual high water in the FORAD. And we're being asked to abandon that. For what? For the applicant? I mean, that's just not going to happen unless, you know, you can go out there and prove to us that our methodology was wrong. And we don't think our methodology was wrong. We think our methodology was right on the money.
I think to continue to delineate the riverfront, I think we talked about that is something that would take place during another filing to follow.
I'm not talking about, right, but well, then they risk that if this is as far as the riverfront's going to go, then they would definitely risk in the NOI, because we'll just appeal that. You know, I mean, because that area there is definitely needs to be vetted out. Yeah. And it hasn't been. And, you know, when you go to the 101 and you still keep coming, why should it stop there? Why shouldn't it come?
I think that we just have to, for the sake of the ANRAD, it's going to stop there. For the sake of something to be done in the future, they'll have to justify moving beyond into that space. So for today, we're just talking about what you see there. I realize that that's a future risk.
Yeah, as long as they realize what the risk is, because I mean, the ANRAD's already at risk for being appealed anyways, because especially where the so-called intermittent stream and the confluence that was drawn on a site plan that has never been delineated as such, ever.
I want to mention something that you said about the riverfront beyond Z100. Joe, Dave, do you agree that delineating doing the 100 and 200 foot riverfront past those points doesn't have any meaning?
Mr. Chairman, it doesn't have any meaning and we're full concurrence with your statement that we are asking the commission to stop the delineation of the riverfront at 101, because we believe that if you strike a perpendicular line from 101 200 feet, that it intersects the intersection of the 200-foot riverfront and the wetland line. So it has no bearing on us moving forward with the development plans, and that the only question will be how do we quantify the total riverfront within the 23 acres for the purposes of the notice of intent, and the limitation that the commission has in allowing a discretionary allowance of up to a 10% impact of that total on-site riverfront. And we'll cross that bridge at the notice of intent. And I think we've got some ideas on how we do that in a conservative manner, to make sure that everyone is comfortable that we're not overestimating the total riverfront within the 23 acres. But
Okay.
yes, we understand the risk that
Okay.
we have at that juncture, and are willing to proceed in that manner.
Okay, Susan, do you have a wrap-up comment that you want to make?
I just want to say that if that riverfront has no bearing on, like when they continue the riverfront area without, actually doing the work on the site plan, then it should be removed from the site plan. The riverfront area that you guys are going to approve is all that should be on there. You don't know what's going to happen down the road. You can't approve a plan riverfront where, right, they haven't done it. It's ridiculous to even think to consider that on there. I would also say that, I just want to make sure that it's clear for the record that, because I don't want the applicant, if it comes to the NOI time, the applicant complaining and making it sound like we made some agreement or settlement, that it is a risk for them to come forward with the NOI without determining what the riverfront area is beyond that area, which could go down to, and could impact their project in the future. So, and I think I made it pretty clear about the intermittent stream. I guess that's all I have to say.
Okay. And Joe, you again, to Suzanne's point, the 100 and 200 foot riverfront to the left of Z101.
And I understand. Yeah, I understand your point,
right?
Mr. Chairman, and I think the commission can have a specific finding that the limitation of the issuance of an ORAD would be to flag Z100, 101, and that the associated riverfronts, the inner riparian and outer riparian, are only as far as that line goes.
Would you, in fact, even when we spoke in the field, the 101 was sort of a sense of direction to go from there, in terms of establishing the riverfront. So, do you want to include 101, or do you want to go to 100?
No, I want to go to 101 because, again, okay, the perpendicular line 200 feet away from 101 is the intersection of the wetland with that 200 foot. So it clearly delineates the non-riverfront, non-wetland area available for development.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question from what Suzanne was saying. For the intermittent stream, I know, like, I've looked at layers and Oliver in the past. I think I saw an intermittent stream, but I don't remember clearly where that was. Can you guys speak to kind of where you got that layer, where you got the information that the intermittent stream is there?
Again, we're not specifically asking the commission to rule. We didn't locate the banks. That was taken from a a prior survey.
Okay, that's what I was asking, is kind of where that came from. So you said like a prior survey. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was a topographic survey, prior topographic survey, and it was from that. That's referenced on the plan.
Okay. All right. That's my question.
Okay. Well, to the intermittent stream, then you are going to show it as an artifact of the previous survey, then?
Yes.
On the drawing. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we do have another hand raised from the audience.
Okay.
So
Yes, it's Suzanne Sullivan again. Is the survey that it's being spoken of, has that been submitted to the commission? Is that survey something that we can see? I mean, I'm just.
It is from. I'm just reading this. Yeah, it looks like it's a survey that was I don't know, an old survey that likely was related to the previous FORAD ANRAD.
It was not. It was a previous survey done by Cameron Moran that was given to us from the property owner.
Oh, okay.
So
all right.
It's referenced on the plan, but in answer to the specific answer to the question, it's not been provided to the commission. And again, we're not claiming that it's a delineation, that it's a bank, that it has any purpose. As Dave Kyle said, we didn't do that, and that from the standpoint of defining jurisdictional boundaries that will be necessary to develop the notice of intent, the BBW takes precedence at that location and its buffer zones. So I'd say that the commission doesn't need to make any specific findings on the matter.
And Mr. Chairman, Suzanne does have her hand raised again.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there's two things. If there's information that's being presented tonight as evidence, then that information should be made public. That's one thing. The other thing, I mean, especially if it's going to be used for a delineation determination, or, and even though they're saying they don't have to, delineate the intermittent stream, but yet that intermittent stream has been definitely used to diminish where the riverfront area is on Lover's Brook there. And it's really not fair. And just one more thing, that the fact that it's on this plan, once again, as something that's a feature of the resource area out here, is really egregious, because if it doesn't exist as an intermittent stream and the commission is not going to make a determination, then it shouldn't be on the plan. Thank you.
Why wouldn't you show it as a wetland?
What do you mean? The intermittent stream is not an intermittent stream. It has not been determined to be an intermittent stream, and it shouldn't be depicted on the plan as one.
I was asking Joe that question. Yeah, Joe.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, the question is why would you have the stream there if it's just an artifact of an earlier survey? In fact
right.
Yeah,
it's a feature. It's like, why do we show the stream channel of Lover's Brook? We're not asking that channel to be codified or approved here, but nonetheless we show it. So it's not labeled on the plan as an intermittent stream. So I don't think it's a matter that this commission needs to worry about. I think you can be clear in your findings with regards to what you are approving with regards to the resource areas, being the bordering vegetated wetlands, A series and B series, the bordering land subject to flooding, the elevation 82, and the riverfront limited to flags Z1 through Z31 and 101 and 100 and 101.
Could you zoom in for a second to the intermittent stream, just so everyone is comfortable with what they see there?
Yeah, Dawn, I would agree with Joe that it's, I mean, on the plan, it's not specifically called out as an intermittent stream. I'm not looking at the legend right now. And I think just it's a showing that there's a fun feature in the wetland area, but it doesn't change. It has no impact on the decisions we will be making tonight. So it's kind of we're off on a tangent.
Go up a little bit too. Again, just pan up a bit. Yeah, there you go.
I would say, like in the NOI, this, if it's still there, we may want clarification in terms of, in case that changes anything any decisions we make in the future. But in terms of right now, and we're making a decision of where the wetland is, where the riverfront area is, and where the land subject to flooding are, and that intermittent stream doesn't impact that.
And again, I think that we had said earlier that the area between Z18 and Z23 was adjusted, not because of anything to do with the intermittent stream, but just to conform more with the river channel, the sinuosity of the river, and not be just a straight line. So I'm okay with it staying there. Are we ready? Are there any hands or?
We do have Suzanne has her hand raised one more time. If you'd like to hear from her.
Okay. Hi, Suzanne.
I did not raise my hand.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good fourth. Good night. All right, so let's move to the vote then. Yes.
Just for clear summary of what we've discussed is we're going to have them add a point from Z18 to Z23 at that kind of weird intersection of the lines.
Yes.
Map to show the increased sinuosity, and then we will include the caveat for the riverfront area it'll be Z31, Z100, and Z101 as shown.
Yes.
And the next steps, if we need to address further areas. So, okay. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Laura.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if you would want to close the hearing prior to a vote on the ANRAD.
Yes.
Thank you. So
the first motion I'll make is to close the hearing for the ANRAD for 378, 384 Middlesex Ave and 200 Jefferson Road. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Can I see the sort of Jeopardy kind of lineup again? The gallery?
Sure. Joe, if you would, I'll just do it.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. So to the vote to close the hearing, Vinny?
I'm going to say no. I'm not happy.
No, okay. Who else is, Ron?
I'm okay with closing the hearing at this point.
Laura?
I'll vote yes.
And I'll vote yes as well.
I'm sorry, if that was for closing the hearing.
Closing the hearing, yeah.
Close it.
So
Yes.
you're voting in favor of closing the hearing. So it's
Yeah.
4-0 to close the
Right.
hearing. Okay. The next motion will be to issue the ANRAD as shown on the, help me with the reference, Valerie. The most recent plan dated.
Sure. This plan date is today, July 1st, 2020.
Any other identifying information you want to read into the record, or is that?
No, so it's the partial existing conditions plan of land in Wilmington, Mass. The original date on it is May 5th, 2020. And then the last revision date is July 1st, 2020.
Okay.
And then if we could just sort of list any proposed.
There was one, I think one modification, which was to insert a flag at the intersection of the lot line to be removed and the transect.
And that was a Z flag for the mean annual high water.
Yes. And you know where that is as well, Joe, right? We located that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the one addition. So I'd make a motion to issue that with that one addition. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All right. So in favor of that, Vinny?
I am not in favor of it.
Okay.
Not.
Ron?
I vote yes.
Laura?
I'll vote yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. So 3-1 for issuing the ANRAD.
Okay.
As modified.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
Chairman. Thank you, members.
Thank you too. And thank you all. That was a interesting one. So moving on, we have a request for a certificate of compliance for 44 Towpath Drive.
Yes. Hold on one second. So 44 Towpath Drive is a single family home, but it was a filing for a deck in the back of the house, and some landscape areas. And I did a site visit yesterday. The area looks great. Everything is stable and complete. I'll just let them know that they should remove their erosion controls, but other than that, it's ready to issue.
Okay. So could I have a motion then to issue a certificate of compliance for 44 Towpath Drive?
So moved.
A second? Second. Thank you, Vinny. All in favor? Let's see. Vinny?
In favor.
And Ron?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
And Don? Yes. The next is a request for a certificate of compliance for 53 High Street.
So 53 High Street was a single family home constructed a while back before my time with the town. Everything was in order. I guess the only thing that I would point out is they did do a little bit of a driveway extension where there's additional pavement with the driveway, and the demarcation boulders are at one point 12 feet from the BBW, and then at another point they're much further away from the wetland. So there's a little bit of variation, but ultimately a bit more protection or more setback in one area, and then 12 feet at the other area. It did look like it was very well grown in, and didn't see any cause for concern with it. But they did have a little bit of a variation from the plan that was approved.
Okay. I'll go on the assumption that we'll issue a certificate of compliance. So could I have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ron. So to issue a certificate of compliance for 53 High Street, how do you vote, Laura?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Myself, yes. The next is a request for a certificate of compliance for the railroad right-of-way, map R2, DEP number 3441211.
So for this one and the next item, we'll need to do a site visit to look at the culverts and the areas in questions. We have not been able to arrange that quite yet because it does take some coordination to get out onto the tracks. We will be scheduling that within the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll have a report back for the August meeting. And Mr. Chairman, just I'd like to, there's someone on the call with a hand raised, so just wanted to let you know.
For what?
I'm not sure. I can I guess the only way we would be able to figure that out is to actually unmute them and ask them.
All right.
So we can do that.
Do you want to give it a shot? Sure.
Sure. So caller, you're.
Good evening. My name is Sam Moffett, and I'm with TRC, and I prepared the request for the subject matter, and I just wanted to acknowledge that we are prepared to arrange a safe site visit at the town's convenience, and certainly hoping that we can get that scheduled within the next couple of weeks.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if you wanted to just table those requests to the next meeting, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay. I'll make a motion to table the request for a certificate of compliance for the railroad right-of-way, DEP file number 3441211. Could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vinny. Mike?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Don? Yes. I'll make a motion to table the request for certificate of compliance for the railroad right-of-way, DEP file number 3441344. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Voting, Mike?
Yes.
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Myself, yes. A request for certificate of compliance for 7 Edwards Road and Sherwood Road.
Mr. Chairman, if you'll remember, I think it was a couple meetings ago, we had discussed this one, and there were some issues with stabilization of the sediment on the side of the roadway. We received some some feedback today that that has been corrected, but I have not been able to go out to do a site visit. So I would recommend that this be tabled to the August meeting.
Okay. So I'll make that motion to table the request for certificate of compliance for 7 Edwards Row and Sherwood Road. May I have a second?
Second.
Laura. And to vote, Mike?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay. Meeting minutes.
You got a bunch of them.
Let's see who. For the May meeting minutes, the following were there: Don, Ron, Laura, Mike, and Vinny. So you can all vote on the May 6th meeting minutes. I have 3 comments, Kathy. One of them is on page 1. You need to put an A in my name so that I become a Pearson instead of a person.
Sorry about that, Don.
It's okay. And in number 8, page 8, the 3rd paragraph, Vinny asked if the shed in the corner would remain, and the commission discussed that fuel and chemicals should not be stored in the shed. It says land.
Okay, we'll change that.
On page 10 at the very bottom, under voted, we want to say to continue the public hearing. It's multiple choice as it is.
Okay.
All right. So that's all I had for the May meeting minutes. Did anyone else have anything? No? Okay. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes for the May 6th meeting as corrected?
So moved.
Ron, thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vinny. Voting, Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Did I get everybody? Myself, yes. I got everyone, right? All the eligible people. Good. So we've approved the minutes for May 6th. Let's see. So next is the May 20th meeting. And we had Don, Vinny, Laura, Ron, Alex, and Mike at the meetings. So everyone, with the exception of Tom, can vote on this. I didn't have anything. It was fine as far as I'm concerned. Anything from anyone else on the May 20th meeting minutes? Okay. I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes for the May 20th meeting.
So moved.
Vinny,
Second.
okay, a second
Second.
from Ron. Okay.
Yes.
All in favor? Mike,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Vinny,
Yep. Yes.
and myself. Yes. Good. So we have the June 17th meeting minutes. Don, Ron, Laura, Mike, Alex, and Vinny were present there. So again, everyone with the exception of Tom can vote on this. Any comments or corrections for these? Okay. So I'll accept a motion to approve the meeting minutes for June 17th, 2020.
So moved.
Laura made the motion. A second?
Second.
Ron seconded. All in favor, Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Don, yes. So I think we're done with that as well. Do we have anything else, Valerie?
Not that I can think of at this time. Nope.
Okay. So I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Laura, and a second? No second.
Around.
No one's going to second it. I'll second it. All right. Mike?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yes.
Myself, yes.